We have about 11 of us here. Can we start? Hey, about 18 or so. About 17 or so here. I think we can start, right?
So let's start.
Hello, can we start?
Yes. Let's start.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening, sir.
You are close from work. Instead of resting, here you are.
Good evening, sir.
Instead of going to rest, and today is Friday, go out. Here you are in class. You see how life is.
It's right.
But we are hoping for the best so we can have our class. So today I want us to look at data collection tools and methods. The methods that we can use to collect data, and then the tools that you are going to use. And then at the end, the overview is that we should have the authenticity of data and findings of every research depend on how well the data was collected. So for you to have a good research, a good outcome, the data is very important. That is why in all of this, when it comes to data collection, a lot of attention have to be paid to. And your supervisors are always worried about your data collection because people can sit in their rooms and generate data and analyze. And you know what that means. So it depends on how well you collect that data.
Hello.
I can't hear anything now.
I think he's gone off.
Okay.
Same here. I can't hear anything.
So sorry, my people, my line just dropped like that. So sorry.
Okay, no problem, sir.
Yeah. So I have to change network. So sorry about that. So like I was saying before, we are saying that we are looking at data collection tools and methods, and we are saying that the authenticity of the data and findings of every research depend on how well the data was collected. So every research that you are doing, the data collection is very important, because if you sit in your room and you cook your own data and put any information out there, others are going to depend on that information heavily for decision making. So the data that you are putting out there is very important. So the way you collect it matter in doing all of this. And we're also saying that the choice of method used is informed by the type of research being conducted. So if you are conducting qualitative type of research, it's also informing the type of method that you can use to collect your data. At the same time, if you are conducting quantitative, we also inform you the type of method used to collect your data. So all of these are also important, and how you decide on them also have to depend on the type of research being conducted. So we are going to discuss both quantitative, qualitative data collection methods, and by the end, we should be able to describe the various data collection methods. However, for us, before we even continue to look at the various types that we have, when you want to conduct research, you must bear in mind that when you are deciding on the method of data collection to be used for your study, you, the researcher, you also keep in mind the two types of data that we have. You can have primary data and secondary data. So the primary data, you already understand. Those are the ones that, or which we collect afresh, or probably for the first time. And that's happened to be what? Original in character. For example, you develop your questionnaires, you go to the field to collect that data, or you design your interview guide to collect a qualitative research data. So if you are going to the field for the first time to collect that, then those are the ones we refer to as what? Primary data, because you are the first person to collect that data. You are the one who designed the questionnaire or interview guide to do that. So when you are doing that, we say you are doing what? Or you are collecting primary data. The second one is what we refer to as what? Secondary data, which we know on the other hand is what? Those which have already been collected by somebody or any institution already. So which they have already been processed or passed through a statistical process. For example, you go to Ghana Statistical Service, you are looking for example, looking at the demographic health survey that's being conducted at least every 5 years. Those ones have been done already. So when you go to Ghana Statistical Service, they can give you that. So the researcher would have to decide which sort of data he would be using for his study accordingly. And then that will actually inform the selection, whether he selects a primary one or the secondary data or the secondary source. So the method of collecting primary and secondary data differ, since primary data are the original one collected, while the secondary data, they are not originally collected, because somebody have already collected that information for you, or that particular data that you are looking for already. So in the case of secondary data, the nature of data collection is merely that of what? Compilation. You just go and compile the list or what you are looking for. When you give you the entire data set, then you compile exactly what you want. For example, when you take the DHS, that is Demographic Health Survey, if you are not looking for everybody in that, every data that is in that particular document, you don't go and copy everything. You compile the one you are interested. So for example, if you want to understand, in that case, you want to know number of people who are anemic, pregnant women or children, you just move that area and then extract that particular data. So you are just doing what? Compilation. So those are the various, we have to describe the various methods of collecting the data. And also we look at what the various advantages and disadvantages that also characterize the various data collection procedures that we are looking at. And there are some studies when you are doing it, of course, you are going to collect primary data. For example, if you are doing experiments, you must collect primary data when you are doing things of that nature. And then when you are doing survey too, you are interested in some phenomenon or information concerning some studies, you are likely to use what? Primary data, especially in a survey where the investigator try to examine those phenomena with which exists in the universe. So you must look at all of this. And we know that when you are doing the studies and you are looking at the primary sources, we have so many of them out there, and the important one, that's what we are going to look at, especially at our level. So we look at observation method, interview method, also throughout questionnaire method. These are the most common one when it comes to primary data collection. So we look at them. Then when we get to the secondary, I already mentioned that it's just mere compilation because the information that you are looking for is already there. So you are only going to compile that particular information and then you can actually move on. So when you look at all that I've said now, we can start with the primary sources. So the primary sources, the first one is what? Observation. That's what we are going to do. Method use, especially in studies relating to human behavior or behavior. You can observe people sitting in the lecture hall, sitting at the library as a student or even a clinic, and observe human behavior and see how they are doing things. So in a way, we will observe things around us. We observe things around us all the time. And then, but that sort of observation is not about what? Scientific. It's not scientific process, or you are not doing any scientific observation when you are just observing things in your environment, unless that observation is done with the tools of collecting data. For example, it's formulated for research purposes and it's what? Systematically done or planned and also recorded. And then the subjects also check and control on validity and reliability. So it is only when you have systematically planned and formulated that you are going to do that observation purposely for research, then we can say that you are doing observation or you are using observation to collect data. Not that you just sit and be observing people in the environment without any pre-arrangement of tools, for example, video to all recorders to record or do that systematically. You can't say that you are doing scientific observation until you have those tools in place and you have put all of them together. It is only then that you can say you are doing observational study. So, for instance, in a study relating to consumer behavior or anything relating to human behavior. So in the investigation, instead of asking the kind of things that people like and all that, you may just want to look at the things or watch it for himself. And you know some of the advantages that come with this. The main advantage of this method is that the subjective bias is what? Especially its limit is eliminated because the person doesn't know that you are observing him or her. So you observe accurately what is happening. And then the information you obtain under this method to also relate to what is currently happening. It is not complicated by either the past behavior or the future intentions or attitude because you are observing it directly. So when you look at the observation, what we are saying is that it's a method of data collection that uses the human senses to gather information. However, when you are using these human senses that we are talking about, you must plan ahead. Have planned that you are going to do observation as a way of collecting your data. And in doing that, you have your equipment in place to record or video the behavior. Because without those one, it will be difficult for you to keep everything in mind and go back and recollect them and write. So it is always important that you also consider and have all those equipment at hand. We also say that observation can also be done through technical equipment such as video equipment. What we can also do is that you can do observation all right, but you yourself may not be there. But you can fix your cameras there, or you can either fix your recorder there. So even though you are not there, your recorder is doing the observation for you. So you go back and look at how people behave in their natural setting. And mind you, I said from the beginning that when people get to know that you're observing them, they are likely to change their behavior, or they adopt behavior that are not true reflection of their life, because they know that you are observing them. However, if you are using your equipment to observe them, that also serves a purpose simply because they don't know you are observing them. You can capture them unaware, and that is also very good about doing observation. We can use observation to gather a variety of information, behavior, verbal, non-verbal communications, then
Hello. Sir, please, we can't hear you.
you know, when the system came, I've forgotten to admit myself, sorry. So I was saying that you can use observation to collect data on behavior, verbal and non-verbal communications, environmental conditions, skill attainment. So you can use observation to do that. However, I am saying that in a natural setting, you cannot just be sitting and be observing and say that you are doing research. You must plan ahead, have your recorder with you to record information, or tape, maybe if it's a song that you want to record and all that, so that you'll be able to do it. And I was also saying that you can even do observation where you yourself may not be there, but equipment or gadgets will be able to capture all the information that you want for you. For example, if you want to do secret observation, that you know that when people get to know that you're observing them, they will not be able to answer questions. So you can also disguise yourself by using the equipment. Yes, Chancellor. Chancellor, please answer your question. You raise your hand, Koshiga. Hello? Chancellor. Koshiga, the Chancellor, you raise your hand.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I'm listening. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Let me step in. Let me ask a question. I'm not in, but let me ask a question.
Yeah.
But sir, when you said
Okay.
the use of recording, do you see, would there be any ethical issues here? Because do you need their consent?
Yes, but there are some of the studies, of course, you seek ethical clearance to do that you are coming to study them, and they will agree. And what we are also saying is that sometimes when they see you at the scene, they change their behavior.
Okay.
Yeah, so even though you have informed them that you are coming to study them, when they see you, they think that that's the time you are coming to study them. Meanwhile, to your knowledge, So the vital information that you are looking for, you are recording, you are getting the which probably they don't know. But already you have already informed that you are coming to study them. There are a group of people, if they know that you are coming to study, they change their behavior. They'll give you the nice aspect of it. You don't get the horrible aspect of it. That's why we are saying that human behavior can be changed at any time. So when you have identified that people are likely to behave like that, you also have to be very strategic. Sometimes you engage them in just informal chatting. Meanwhile, you have already started doing your recording. So there are ethical issues in that. That is some of the studies that have been undertaken by NAS and the rest. It is not common in our part of the world, but the US and other places, it is accepted. It is done because human behavior is a way that they will change it. So if you sometimes want to make clear that I'm here doing this, you not get the true information that you want. But if you look at the developed world, especially in America, that is the kind of research that most of them undertake. And that's like what ANAS have been doing here in Ghana.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Chancellor, do you want to ask the question or we can proceed?
So let's proceed.
Okay. So we are saying that when you are doing observation, there are certain factors that you also have to consider, which you call influential factors of observation. The first one is what? Reactivity, which I already spoke about. Distorted behavior when the person being observed is aware that he or she is being observed. That is the reactivity. When you get to know that you are observing me, I'll change. For example, let me give you an instance. When we are in school, you see, when we are in our dormitories or hostels or halls, you see how we behave in our rooms, especially if you look at our ladies. They sit down, they can sit behind their bowls, eat kenke heavily, take gari soakings and all that, sit anyhow, do things they are in their rooms. But you allow them to come outside and see if they will do those things. They will not do it. In their room, probably they will pick mangoes and sit down and eat everything. But you come outside and see, give them and see, they will not take. So their behavior is influenced by people around us. You see how guys should behave in our hostels and all that. But when we come out, we are so neat, we dress, we don't do those things that we do when we have our private life. Meanwhile, that is what you want to observe. So sometimes you must go using your equipment to get them. So the first challenge that we have in doing observation is that the reactivity, the behavior that you are going to observe, especially in human behavior, will be distorted because the person is aware that you are observing him or her, and therefore they are going to change the behavior to suit whatever you are trying to observe. And two, the second one is what? The biases. The observer biases. Sometimes you, the one who is doing observation, you also have your preconceived ideas about the person or the behavior being observed. Therefore, even if the person did not depict that behavior, you are going to write that that's the behavior the person has depicted. Meanwhile, it is not true. So the observer also have what? The biases towards whatever he or she is observing. Are you getting the two explanations I'm giving? That the first one is the reactivity. The people distort their behavior because they want to portray the good aspect of them for you to see. Therefore, you don't seem to see the reality. The real behavior is not forthcoming. Second, we also say that you, the observer who is doing the research, you have already have some preconceived idea about the people. So even things that have not been done, you are going to record them. For example, you are studying high-risk groups, that are prostitutes. So you already have your preconceived idea about them. So if you go there, things that they have not said, things that you have not seen, you are also going to add them because you already have your preconceived ideas about them. And those are the two issues that we are talking about. However, in absence of that, observation has certain merits or advantages, which I have already started before we went off that way. We said that the subjective bias is also eliminated because if observation is done appropriately or accurately, when you are doing that properly, then you can take away what? Your subjective biases towards whoever you are observing. So you can eliminate that from your studies. And then we also said the information obtained under this method is what is happening currently. It is not complicated by any past behavior or future intentions or attitudes. So that is very important. The information you are obtaining relates to what is currently happening. It is not complicated by either the past behavior or the future intentions or attitudes, because you are seeing everything really there. It is not complicated by any other issue. Like you are going to interview the person or that. You are seeing it as it is happening, or you are recording it as it is happening. The third one is that the method is what? Independent of respondents' willingness to respond, and as such is relatively less demanding of active cooperation on the part of what? Your respondents, as happens to be what? The case in the interview or the questionnaire method. So the third one, we're also saying that it's independent of what? The respondent's willingness. Even though the person is not ready to speak to you, you are doing your observation. So whether they like it or not, you are doing observation. So it does not depend on them whether they cooperate with you or not, whether they are actively cooperating with you, as unlike questionnaire where they have to fill for you, or you ask them questions, they have to respond. In this case, you don't ask questions and you can go ahead and conduct your observation. So it does not depend wholly on the response or the cooperation with the participant to get the information that you want. So it is important that we note that. And then we're also saying that the method is particularly suitable in studies which deal with what? Subject, that is respondent, who are not capable of giving verbal reports of their feelings for one reason or the other. So you can also do that when you realize that the people are not capable of giving any verbal reports of their feelings for one reason or the other. So when you think that people are not going to be willing to give you, or they are not capable of giving you verbal reports of how they feel about things that happen to them in the hospital and all that, observation is a very good method to use to collect that data. We know people are physically challenged. How they feel, it is difficult for them to tell you. There are people who feel shy to express themselves. But when you use observation, you are really observing them, and so you can get that information. However, there are certain weaknesses that you must also look at. First, it is an expensive method because those gadgets that you are going to use to monitor, they are expensive. And two, you, the observer, must be there all the time. And when you are using your time to be there and observe, it's expensive. Because if I have to observe, let's say, prostitutes, I must risk my life, go to where they ply their trade, and be there, be observing. And that is an expensive job to do. That means you have leaving every economic activity to just go and be observing. Secondly, the information provided by this method is very limited because you can't ask questions. If, for example, you are doing observation that you are not asking questions, you cannot ask further probe questions to probe further and see why people behave the way they are behaving. No, so you could not understand better. You are limited because you are not asking questions to get further explanation or clarification on the behaviors that are being put out there. And then thirdly, sometimes unforeseen factors may also interfere with the observational tasks. At times, the fact that some people are really accessible to direct observation creates obstacles for this method to collect data effectively. There are people that you cannot see or you cannot observe directly. So it's also difficult for you to actually collect data. And sometimes there are factors that interfere with your observational tasks. Sometimes you are doing observation, but you have seen something that have distracted you. A man is doing observation among ladies, and you have seen something that have taken his attention from the entire observation that he's doing. You have seen a lady passing, you have forgotten himself. That he's doing observation, he's doing a study. You see people observing and they really fall into gutter. They forget about what they are doing, and that can distort the information that you are going to collect. So sometimes when you are doing this, you're also limited by unforeseen circumstances. You see how the guys are. Many things that they see, it influences them a lot. So you are doing observation, you are focusing, you see a lady put on some dress, and that has taken entire attention for what you are doing. And the information that you have collected will be distorted. So these are some of the challenges when you are using observation method. Any question before I progress? We are even about to end. So if you have any question, let me address them before our time go so that we can relog in.
Yes, sir. With the observation bias or observer bias, apart from the person being biased, maybe interpretation of what the person has seen to can be misleading, or individuality of a man, what I can see from somebody, another person cannot see. So
Yes.
that one can also be one of the demerits of the observation.
Yes, that is why you see, if you look at the second point, I said that the information provided by this method is very limited, in the sense that whatever you are observing, to ask questions, to understand the reason why people are behaving the way they are doing. So you are limited in that capacity, and the same thing that you have also said in different ways. So that is also limitation.
Yeah, please, can the primary and the secondary data be used together?
Yes, depending on what you are doing. You can use primary data and the secondary data.
Okay.
Is that what you are doing?
All right.
Some people have a secondary data already, they have done the analysis. Now they want to go to the field and see if the same thing is still happening so that they can compare the two. So most of the time, that can also be done. So when we also talk about types of observation that we have. We often talk about the participants and non-participant type of observation in the context of studies, particularly of social sciences. We have observation that you, the observer, or the researcher who is doing the observation, you are part of the process at the same time doing the observation. The others, you do not involve yourself in the activities. You are just there doing the observation. So that's what we'll just be looking at as we are about to, our session is about to come to an end. So what we log in will continue.